So a concept that we should all bear in mind is at any point in time, we have break point volume. And it was one that was brought up by a friend of mine, Alan Cousins. And our breakpoint volume is going to change as we age. But in the short term, it changes based on our life stress and what we have going on, as well as the training program. So there's these different factors that are going to be impacting our breakpoint volume. And if we're not tolerating the plan, we're past the breakpoint. There's no judgment required. As soon as the overuse injury or the niggle turns up, the overall approach we have needs to change, full stop. So we can, if all you're doing is doing all these recovery modalities to try and get you back to a plan that's breaking you in the first place, you're going to be in a cycle of not progressing as an athlete. And it's going to ultimately take your enjoyment away, and you're at the start of a downward spiral, whether you realize it or not. So something's going to need to change. So you need to reset your expectation. Now, this is something I've gone through as an older athlete. It's something we're all going to go through. So we're going to have what worked for us when we were developing, when we were younger, when we were at our peak. And at some point, that'll stop working. And we're going to have to figure out another way to manage it. And one of the things I've learned from my mentors who race successfully all the way up into their 70s is that at some point, it's going to become staying in the game more than the training itself. So it's going to be the ability to train is going to be what generates performance in these very experienced athletes, not so much the training protocol itself. And this will be a mindset change. And if you don't change, your body's going to break. It's not going to be much fun. You're going to drop out of the sport. So this concept of breakpoint volume is a really good one for the listeners to think about, particularly if they're chronically injured. Well, don't get trapped in getting yourself back to what hurt you in the first place. So you have to be willing to change these sessions or these mental targets that you have that are causing breakdown and just break the cycle. And that will lead to improved performance.
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the challenges that people might have is they might say, okay, well, I keep getting these niggling injuries, and they'll start doing some research or having a bit of a Google to try and find out what might be going on. And they're thrown things like, okay, obviously volume and load might be one thing. The other thing could be technical inefficiencies. The other thing could be gear or surfaces and things that they're running on. Is there any protocol that you would recommend or that people could go through to find out what it is that's actually causing the issue? Because obviously, especially for a newer athlete, I mean, I think I can say quite confidently for myself, mine was exactly what you were speaking about. I had the mindset of me from 10 years ago where I was doing it every day. I was doing it at high intensity. Mentally, I knew what I should be doing and how to do it. And so I thought, let's go and do it. And it wasn't working. And I'm in that period of that crossroads where I've got to navigate my way back to, a higher standard of performance or at least a higher volume over time, slowly finding that balance. But I can only say that with confidence based on how long I've been involved in the sport and having the opportunity to hear from people like yourself. But for someone who's new, they go, okay, I don't know much about the sport. I can't seem to handle this load. 10 different people tell me 10 different things. How do I know what's true and what the next step should be?
Well, have a look at your training log and stop trying to race beyond what's comfortable in training. I mean, if you're banging out 30K a week and tolerating it well, there's no need to sign up for a marathon. I mean, these errors happen when we sign up for a race that's beyond our current capabilities. And as a result, we feel pressure, self-imposed pressure, to ramp too quickly. It's the ramp. It's not the equipment. It's not the, it's not necessarily our gait, although gait analysis can help. But it's almost always the basics. And the basics is life stress, sleep, load, and ramp rate. The ramp rate, running is a challenging sport, particularly if you aspire to be a high mileage runner. You're going to need to take many years of walking, hiking, jogging, running intervals to build and create the body that can handle the load required, that the load implied by these high-end performances that you might aspire to. If you cut corners, or if your nutrition is poor or your sleep is poor and then you're not recovering, you're going to get hurt. I mean, we all know that. And it's just patience. It's these longer, it's the ability to put the years on. But the easiest way to avoid all that is simply to race within your current capabilities. And I think many, actually runners are pretty good with that. At least, the junior runners that I'm exposed to here, nobody's in a big rush to kind of ramp up. It's the adults that are in a rush. The kids and the younger runners, they got their hands full, running fast over shorter distances. Whereas, the adult runner, particularly me, I was kind of like a late onset runner. I was drawn to these long events, and I think a lot of people are, but it's not much fun. It's no fun being injured. So taking your time is a much better way to handle it.